Building a billion-dollar B2B brand. Welcome back to a fresh episode of BreakingB2B.com. I'm your host, Sam Dunning, and if you want to join thousands of legends enjoying each and every fresh podcast episode, what's actually working today in B2B marketing, SEO, driving demand, and inbound, then check out our weekday newsletter over at BreakingB2B.com. So today, we've got a special guest joining me. It's actually the third edition from 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗁𝗲 We've got Alina Vandenberghe. Alina is the co-founder and co-CEO over at 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗁𝗲. We're going to be talking about what building a billion-dollar B2B brand involves, the importance of brand in 2024 and beyond, why 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗁𝗲 have gone so big on brand, what you should prioritize as a small marketing team, as 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗁𝗲 have only currently got 3 folks in that marketing setup, how it impacts inbounds and revenues, and the ups and downs of scaling to that kind of size. With that, Alina, welcome to the show. How are we doing?
I'm loving spending my first hour of the Monday with you. Very excited.
I think that's the nicest compliment anyone's ever given me on this show, so I'll take what I can get. So looking forward to diving in, Alina. We never beat around the bush on this show. We always get as actionable as possible, as quick as we can. So with that said, 2024 and beyond, what do you believe is the importance of building a brand?
I'm went down a rabbit hole in the past year with all the things AI, building autonomous AI bots, using it for answering all my toddlers' questions, which are never ending. They always want to know about how everything is formed and how life exists. I'm very excited about AI in general, about the things that it can help us with. And I'm also observing that as we're transitioning to AI helping us be better humans, there's going to be a lot of trial and error. And right now, on the error side, we're all inundated by so many things in our social feed, in our email, in the news. Everybody can create content faster and better, but as we're limited in our capacity to process it all, we are becoming overwhelmed. And in that transition where as humans become overwhelmed, there's a lot on in the background of this, especially in US, mental health is taking a priority. If you look more and more on social media, influencers are talking a lot more about trauma and overwhelm and burnout, which is healthy that people feel comfortable talking about it. And as a result, I think that communities will start focusing back to the basics, which is getting back together in person, micro communities, micro local communities that feel passionate about certain topics. So I am a lot more bullish than I've ever been on in person, even though I run a company that's all remote. I feel that's what we're going to get back to, which I'm excited about.
Got it. So do you feel that in-person events, communities, and that kind of stuff is big when it comes to the brand side of things? Is that like a big proponent of what's working right now?
Very accurate, yeah. That's my main focus. I have other focuses, but this would be my main one, yeah.
And what's made you come to that conclusion?
So I've been running a remote company for almost 9 years now, and we're in 40 countries. And we've learned to work very well remotely. We can do a lot of async work on decision making, on updates. And whenever we get in person, there's this energy that's palpable, that's very hard to define. I feel very lucky that I can work from anywhere and everywhere. And I feel very lucky that I can work with people from such diverse cultures. And at the same time, I miss that in-person connection, and it happens rare. So I cherish it, and I make the most out of it. So we've been every year we've been perfecting this right kind of energy to in-person, remote, in-person, remote. And I also organize a lot of dinners and with CMOs and CROs and CEOs. And I observe that when we're in person, especially when you're breaking bread, so over lunch, over dinner, the kind of sharing that happens, the kind of learning that happens can't compare with any comments on Reddit or any comments on LinkedIn. A lot more beautiful.
Got it. Okay, interesting. So, and is that, even though that is such on a small scale, do you believe the impact that comes off the back of that is kind of worthwhile for any kind of B2B brand, or is it because you've got to this scale that now it's working?
It's debatable. So you can say, well, Alina, you have, I don't know, 3 million reach on LinkedIn, and it's a lot better that you spend your energy there. It's true that on digital the reach is greater, but it's a lot less deep, right? You can only share certain parts of who you are, and there's lack of depth, because you can share it in video. It's better. So I'm really excited that you're producing this podcast in video as well, because you can see the body language, you can hear the intonation in the voice, so you get more perspective. But most things that happen in social media is text and photo, so you're missing the depth of it. So as a result, you're not as you don't have as good understanding of your ICP, you don't have a good understanding of your team. Whereas when you meet in person, you do. And I don't know why humans have this extra layer of perception in person. It's beyond what my brain can comprehend. But it's just very different. And I'm observing that the impact is greater in person. We meet with all sorts of people on an ongoing basis. Some people that might be influencers in our space, some people that might be holding a lot of interesting experiments or a lot of interesting work that they're doing. So I tend to be surrounded by people that are exceptional, and I feel very grateful for that. So I feel like the combination of impact of the in-person and digital is the best of both worlds.
Got it. So your last evaluation at 𝗥𝗲𝗀𝗏 was 700 mil, if I'm right, and you're scaling at the moment with a goal to go 1 billion and beyond. I'm guessing the focus wasn't always on brand initially when you folks started out. Is that fair to say, or was that always in the back of your mind when you and Nicholas were first building the company?
So this is my first company. I'm the technical co-founder. At the beginning, I was obviously a lot more focused on the product front, making sure that the product experience is the right one and people can feel excited about going through the journey and share with others their results and their experience with it. My co-founder has a very different experience than me. He's gone through many startups and he's gone through a lot of economical downturns. And together, we had this belief that what's really important is to create the kind of culture where people can thrive the most, including ourselves and including everybody else we bring on board. So we become very intentional about the values. We become very intentional from day zero on who we bring on board to make sure that we have most impact. And I believe that culture is probably 40 to 50% the work that needs to be done in order for a brand to succeed. And as we're all inundated with information and with apps and with so many tools, brand still has the ability to make people to make choices over your name over others, because they know that there will be less peer pressure when they will make a decision to buy your tool over others.
So culture's 40 to 50%. What would you say is the remainder?
It's doing the right things in the product to make sure that the experience is right and that the sharing with others is the right way to go. Is how to train, especially your marketers, to craft the right kind of attention and messaging around the things that you care about to make sure that your target audience take action. But even the training, I think, is highly correlated with how your culture is structured, how your code of culture comes about. There's some visual components to brand as well, making sure that the visual association is correct, that there's a certain emotion that gets distilled to the visual representation. So that's a part of it as well. And obviously the culture and the product are the remaining pieces.
Got it. So, I mean, these days, when you think of calendar scheduling, along with a couple other brands, 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗁𝗲 is up there as a name that comes to mind. I'd imagine for most in B2B tech that are familiar with calendar scheduling software in general. But was that kind of the plan from the early days, or was the early days more, let's build a great product, let's try and get some customers on board, and let's kind of see what works, see what aspects of the product are getting uptake, and then go from there? Or was it always, we want to be known in the B2B space, we want to be the go-to for calendar scheduling, calendar booking? Or was the thought process a little bit different?
I'm talking to a lot of founders these days, and what I'm realizing is that when we look back to the path that we took, we always think, oh, we always thought about it this way. But the reality is that it's the environment, it's the ecosystem that drives us one direction versus the other. I did not think that I will ever be associated with scheduling. It actually happened by chance. And while we benefit from it, because a lot of people who are talking to many cool companies, they see our brand in it, they say powered by 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗁𝗲, and they book meetings by it, and they see a reminder by us. It does help that we're being seen in all these places. It's actually not our main value proposition. So we don't want people to think of us when necessarily when it's all about scheduling. We want people to think of us when they think about operating more efficiently in their GTM team, to convert more, to bring more demand in, to convert more demand, to get more pipeline. So it comes with pros and cons that I'm being seen as a scheduling company. Again, I appreciate that they're being exposed to our brand, but it skews the messaging and it skews the perception. So I did not intend it. No, it helps, but I did not intend it.
So the market came to that conclusion, I guess. And you're trying to shift away from that at the moment, right? Because 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗁𝗲 basically, didn't you post, you're working on something right now where you're kind of shifting the way the business model, right?
Yeah, we just announced something like 20 days ago. We had a big launch. We looked at our platform. We gave it a name. Names are always hard to grasp, but the name that felt best appropriate to what we do is Demand Conversion Platform. It was a fun launch. We got a lot of cool people helping us in the process. It's interesting because even though people mostly associate us with when you're on a B2B website, there's a contact us form. And if you want to talk to the right rep in the company, if you're qualified, that's when you're bringing 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗁𝗲 and you can double your conversion rates. The reality is that once we get inside of the companies that we work with, there are a lot more conversion touch points, whether it's around gifting, whether it's their G2 listing, whether it's around transferring their customers to customer success for onboarding, or cross-sell with your account managers in app, or there are also nurture campaigns that can yield pipeline. So there are like so many other touch points, but it's just so complex to understand. Our brain has short attention span, so these kind of concepts are hard to grasp, and even our title is hard to grasp. So my hope is that people can just think about it. Can think about 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗁𝗲 whenever they want to become more efficient and more effective in their go-to-market. It's a process, and we have to repeat and repeat as marketers until we're blue in the face.
Got it. Let's shift gears a bit. So let's talk about your marketing team. Right now, it's only 3, and you were acting CMO for over a year, right?
I just finished my stint as a CMO in February 2024, acting CMO. Yeah.
Got it. So what do you think has been the main secrets, the main growth levers? Because as far as I know, just 3 in a company, a marketing team of 3 in a company that's kind of grown to your scale is pretty rare. Like, I know companies that are a lot smaller that have a lot larger marketing team in general. So I guess first and foremost, why have you kept it so lean? And then we can dive into kind of some of the growth levers that you've pulled to hit the revenue you're at right now.
It was an interesting path, because even though I'd spent a lot of time with marketers in the past 9 years, a lot of time, especially with demand gen marketers that are creating podcasts and are creating thought leadership content on social, I didn't feel like I can fully feel their pains and could truly leave their pains unless I was them. I've been building products for a long time now, like 20 years, and for so many personas in healthcare, in education, in finance. And I felt that the more empathetic I was with my user, the better my product became. And I was lucky. Many of my products got keynoted by Steve Jobs and got, for instance, at Thomson Reuters, I got 30 million users. At Bloomberg, I got 50 million users. The more I understood my ICP, the better I became at my job. And I don't think there's anything that can really prepare you for building something for your users than being one. And I was missing that. I've been always working as a product manager, as an engineering lead, as a UX lead, and I didn't grasp fully what it takes to be a marketer. And I found it one of the hardest jobs I've ever had. There are different reasons for it. The main one being that you have to reinvent yourself every week. You have to come up with different ways to get attention from the market every week, because whatever worked 3 months ago doesn't work anymore. And you have to be in as many channels as possible. You want to be as effective as possible in reaching out these people. And because I have a very engineering focused mindset, and because I have a very impact driven mindset, I started focusing on the things that I knew that we can calculate that have a greater impact, and especially around the places where we could have most impact. Yes, we can be everywhere. We could be on X, we can be on Instagram, we can be on TikTok, we can be on LinkedIn. We can be on offline as well. But the more you focus on the areas where you know you can have your most impact, and the better you become at measuring and being efficient in converting those channels, the better your marketing team becomes. So I became obsessed with impact measurement. And the other thing that I became obsessed with is making sure that our team has the right kind of skill sets to be able to be effective at scale, and with the right tools to convert that demand. Because I can't sell to marketers without being really good at demand capture and demand conversion.
So with your product background, what made you decide to get stuck into the marketing side of things? Because you could have just hired someone, right?
I observed that what I was really good at was building products. That was my special kind of skill that we all have just one thing that we're really good at. And my ability to build product and having this engineering mindset, I could have applied it to anything. I could have applied it to consumer products. I could have applied it to enterprise software products. And I felt personally that I was getting a lot more joy in building enterprise software, because there's a lot more complexity in buying, in group buying. There's a lot more complexity in how operations run when it's a large company. And when I observe that that's where I'm most impactful, I doubled down my skills on revenue teams, because I was a salesperson at some point in my career. And I now am a lot more accustomed of how businesses work and how the operations, all the different parts of the operations work. But because I never gone through marketing myself personally, I felt I needed to feel their pain truly to be able to be a lot more effective at building software for them. And the reality is that even though there are like 3,000 MarTech tools and 3,000 RevTech tools, the impact that they can get out of these tools is minimal. It's not like you're 10xing yourself. It's not like you're all of a sudden making a huge difference with that tool when you're bringing it on board. Whereas with 𝗥𝗲𝗹𝗁 from the early on, and the reason why we've managed to grow so fast is because the ROI is a lot greater than any other tool. They can see like doubling of pipeline immediately in like 30 days. And I don't want to stop there. I want to have 10x impact with my tool. And there are a million ideas that I have in my brain all the time on how we can do that. And those kind of things get me very excited and get very energized to do my job.
So what was it like when you came on board on the marketing side of things? And I'd like to dive into how things were before and what you changed. But what did you do initially? Like, what was the first thing you do? I know you said you wanted to be empathetic and really understand the ICP. Did you do much in the way of reviewing the current setup and then bringing your own ideas and experiments in, or what was the approach that you took? And were things where you wanted them to be, or was there a lot that you thought, oh God, this isn't right, I need to kind of change and tweak this quite a bit?
So my team is very senior in their approach to marketing, so I didn't need to do much in the management of the team. What I was really focused was on learning, and I started becoming part of every marketing group you can think of. I was in the community, reading the comments, reading the posts, in person at every conference that you can think of, in the audience to see what people talk behind closed doors, and at happy hours. At happy hours, you learn a lot. So it just became a sponge in the first 2 quarters to truly understand what they really care deeply about, what they get fired on, why they get fired, why they get promoted, what helps them get energized, what drains them, what kind of motions they do, what kind of activities, what kind of campaigns, what are the successful ones doing. So it was mainly sponge mode and I feel very grateful for having that, because there's nothing that prepares you for what you're going to build next than those behind closed doors conversations. Because on LinkedIn, you don't really get the full conversation. On Slack, you don't get the full conversation. You don't get the emotions behind the decisions. It's mostly when there's no one else listening that you get the truth.
So essentially, you immersed yourself and tried to soak up as much information as possible out of the market, what's going on, what the ICP is thinking, what they're planning, what their ideas are, pain points, goals, jobs to be done, all that kind of good stuff. Got it. Did you, when you were CMO, did you kind of leave it to the rest of your team, or did you actively fire up new ideas and initiatives and strategies, or like once you've done that?
I had some basic strategies that I knew that are going to work for us. So for instance, one thing that I remember very vividly when I started, I realized that as a marketer, the attention that you can get is only based on a personal story. And that's a learning that I had from the beginning when we were bootstrapped, by always going in person at events and telling my personal stories to the people that I was meeting. And the more I shared about my struggles, the more people were willing to help and be part of our journey. And then I was starting to observe in the B2C world that the companies that were starting to get a lot more fast growth on the ground were people that were utilizing the power of the story. You can look at, I'm not necessarily a big fan, but I am a big fan of the marketing campaigns, which is Kyle, what's her name from Kardashians?
Oh, not Kylie Jenner.
Kylie Jenner, yeah,
Okay.
that's the one, yeah. So she's done this amazing business in makeup. I don't fully resonate because I'm not big into makeup. I prefer to do my phase in like under 3 minutes. But there's an entire generation that cares deeply about how their appearance, and they follow her as an icon, and her sharing her personal journey has definitely helped her build fast a business. So I learned a lot by watching them, even though I was not their persona, even though I was not resonating, and admiring their tactics and the playbooks to building such great companies so fast. With so low value, in my opinion, because there's not a value that I have.
If you had to name them, what would you say were some of the biggest growth levers that marketing have pulled to get 𝗥𝗲𝗋𝗀 to where it is today?
It goes back to what I said at the beginning, which is in person. There's a lot of in-person touches that we have. I encourage a lot of my employees to meet as many people as possible within our ICP. And then we make quite a lot of noise on social, the right kind of noise, grabbing attention of our ICP with our learnings. We share a lot of our learnings online. We build in public. Those are the two ones that have made the biggest difference.
And is in-person having quite a decent dent in terms of the pipeline that's coming off the back of it? Is it something that's easily measurable, or is it something that you did initially and thought, I think we should do this, but I'm not sure if it's going to work? Or talk us through that.
When we were bootstrapped all the way to 3 million in AR, most of our pipeline was built in person. We would just go to events where our ICP was and have conversation with people that would eventually translate to pipeline. It takes many touches. You have to be patient. But every conversation matters, every touch point matters, and we were patient, and that's how we got to 3 million AR. And we continue to measure that, and it continues to have a big effect on our pipeline. Yes.
Talk to me about the early days a little bit, because I think this is something that doesn't get shared that much in terms of the nitty-gritty. And I think this would be good for not just marketers, but anyone that's aspiring to be a founder or has got their own side hustle or something planned up or cooking up on the side. Because bootstrapping to 3 million AR is no joke. That's crazy. And if the fact that you were doing that from, obviously scaled well beyond that now, but the fact you were doing that from going to events, talking to ICP, and then getting the pipeline, what did that actually look like? Like just talking to folks and then saying we've come up with this concept and we've got this problem that we're fixing. Like, would you be interested in the talk, or talk me through the process? Because I'd be intrigued to know what that looked like.
The reason why we managed to have as big of an impact that we did at the beginning, and we continue to have, is that we're always focused on the nodes in our ecosystem that have most influence in our ICP, meaning people that are most respected in our industry. So top marketers and top revenue leaders. When we started, we were targeting managers for sales development teams or prospecting teams.
Okay.
At that time, it was mostly, it was a lot of inbound and outbound head of sales. And we've always focused on those that were most respected. And you can tell which ones are most respected, not by the number of followers, but by how they managed to gravitate, how they managed to pull audiences in person, because they have most learnings to be shared. And that was like a big focus for me and my co-founder. And another big focus was on the players that were at the time a lot more ahead than we were in AR. And we always seeked to make connections with those players in tech that we could have integrated with, or start having some common playbooks together, whether it would be on social or a blog post. So we would interview them, or we would just seek to learn from them to be able to pull ourselves up in the process as well. I remember when we started, SalesLoft was one of the top players, and Kyle Porter would be very good at getting followers from our ICP, which was sales dev. So we started doing a lot of fun activities with Kyle on social, where we would do some caricatures and some funny takes on Kyle. So any player in our system that was good at ecosystem type of growth, we would associate ourselves with, and that's how we looked a lot bigger than we were in the early days.
So you leverage spheres of influence, it sounds like. So you went to the basically best bang for your buck, almost influencers within your target markets, and kind of leverage those audiences from there. That's smart.
And that's what we continue to do. Yes.
I interrupted you earlier when you were talking about kind of the shift that you've taken in person. What would you say as a percentage split, like in terms of your marketing spend, like how much of that percentage wise are you directing to in-person events opposed to, I don't know, other channels, be it paid, be it organic, be it socials?
About a third. About a third.
Got it. And is the rest right now split amongst the usual suspects, be it paid review sites, Google paid search, social?
So about 30 events, about the third paid, and the other third is split between experiments that we do, so new things that we come up with, work that we do with influencers, a lot of campaigns towards our customers, all sorts of long tail projects that we concoct every quarter.
Talk to me more about your thoughts on experimentation, because I know just before we hit record you said that you posted on LinkedIn your entire calendar for this week or this month.
This week.
Pretty mental for a CEO, not something I usually hear. So what's the thought there, and what's your thoughts in general towards experimentation in marketing and growing a business?
I find that SaaS businesses are a lot harder to build than any other type of business, because it's very easy to copy a product, and in software, especially these days with AI, it's very easy to copy content. What's not easy is to copy the thoughts behind creating that product, or the thoughts behind creating that content. And in order to stay within the constraints that you're being given by your shareholders, by everybody around you, which is like always double your revenues and have a certain EBITDA and rule of 40, blah, blah, blah. And those constraints can only be met if you have the right mind frame to be able to thrive in them. And you can only be, especially because I've been in this for a long time, it's very easy to get tired. And as a founder, it's very easy to see as your best option an exit. For me, an exit would be a failure. Like if you ever see me selling to Salesforce, you'd think, Alina, she gave up. I'm finding that I'm most happy at work when I'm innovating, when I'm finding that I'm impactful on the actions that I have. And I hope that my entire team has the same type of mindset, where we're here to learn, we're here to become better human beings, to have an impact, and that our actions matter. And because of that, when we have our own, when we do our internal evaluations and assessments of our level and of our skills, we take into account impact, especially impact that comes from innovation. And as a result, we just do a lot of experiments that are fun. And from being fun and impactful, that's where you know that you're not burning out and you're still having fun and you're on the right path.
I love it. It's rare that I speak to marketers or co-founders that are this enthusiastic. So I'm of a very similar thing. I'm constantly thinking of different experiments or ideas in which I can stand out. So my marketplace is SEO, right? And a lot of folks in the SEO space are super technical, whereas I'm almost like the opposite. So I'm more high level strategy and a content background. It's like, for example, anyone that follows me on LinkedIn or these shows has seen me walking around the streets asking people questions around SEO just to get the public's reaction and get unusual ideas. And 1 in 10 people might know what works and might even have a background in it, but the other folks are saying some really funny stuff. But I'm a very similar kind of mindset. If there's a way that you can do something, like you said, with your own unique spin, your own unique angle, a new way to get a job done, I think that's really powerful. What would you say to anyone that kind of wants to take a mindset or to put some budget towards experimentation, but is perhaps thinking that it's going to be a waste of time, or if they're a marketer, perhaps they think their exec team won't sign it off? Like, what's any advice, I suppose, that you would give someone to take more of this approach?
I feel like I'm very privileged to have the freedom to experiment, and I feel very fortunate that I get the freedom to build these things with my team, and I surround myself with the kind of people that I love working with. If you're not the founder and you don't have that privilege, the most, if I were in the shoes of someone in that role, the most attention I would pay to is the things that are around my zone of genius. What are the things that I can have most impact on? And the type of things that drain me, I would just delegate. And within your zone of genius, understand whether your manager or the person, typically you don't really have one manager. Even if you're just reporting to one person, you have to calibrate your impacts around other departments as well, because you want to be pulled with them. Is to make sure that before you join a team, there's alignment in them understanding what you can be most impactful on and their expectations, because none of us is perfect, and marketing is so complex, and it can be done in so many ways, and different people can excel in such diverse tactics and campaigns. Is to make sure that the things that you know most about are aligned with how the company wants to operate, especially your manager, to feel that there's alignment and liberty there to operate within your rules of engagement, because we feel happier when we have freedom to be to have impact on the areas that autonomous, in the areas that we have most our zone of genius, and we want to be in the company of people who understand that it's impossible to be perfect across the board, and they can be supportive of that.
Got it. Appreciate the summary. So before we wrap up, I want to take a little bit of a shift to, so we've talked a lot about what's going well. We talked a lot about the growth of 𝗥𝗲𝗀𝗏 and the focus on brand in person. But back in 2022 was when you had a financial evaluation of close to $1 billion. And then I know on your LinkedIn it says immediately after the valuations dropped to a third. Is that exactly what went down? But I'd be interested to hear kind of how that impacted business, what that was like from a stress load as a founder, a co-founder, co-CEO, and how you have sprung back from that.
So in 2021, the market turned against all SaaS businesses in the right way. It created the right kind of incentives for people to become a lot more aligned with being effective and making sure that they hire people that they can keep employed. And I think it created the right ripple effects. But for me as a founder, it was probably the most challenging, and it was one of the hardest periods of my life, because I have this illusion, and I'm still working with my coach on it, that I can keep everybody in the company employed at all times. Not only that, but I can take care of everybody. And that's because of how I was brought up in Romania, thinking that as a big sister, I can take care of everybody. And I just felt that I failed them. And again, that's something that I still work with in coaching, to understand that I have limited capacities and I can't take care of everybody. But within this illusion, I really felt like a failure. And then the thing that helped me get back on track is understanding that I might have failed one cohort, but I was not failing the cohort that stayed with me, and giving my employees my best attention for success was what mattered. And also it taught me to not get enamored with valuation, not get enamored with the wrong kind of metrics, but stay focused on the growth metrics of a company that keeps it sustainable long-term and can create value long-term, which is the right kind of mindset to create a SaaS company. So it resetted me. It was a hard reset, but it was a good reset.
No, I appreciate you sharing. I appreciate you being so transparent. For any similar founders perhaps that are going through those kind of times, because it's not an easy world in general in tech, especially if you've perhaps not been hitting your numbers, or perhaps there's pressure from VCs or whatever source of funding you've had, or even if you're bootstrapped. Is there any advice that you'd give for anyone that's perhaps feeling under it now, that there is light at the end of the tunnel?
The pressure is tough to handle, and especially for me as a founder, it's even greater because I get pressure from all possible sides, from my board, from my team, from my customers, from my prospects. So I've never felt as much pressure as I do right now, because the bigger impact, the more pressure there is. And in order to stay focused on the right things, I have to make sure that the strategies and the numbers that I pick to track, and the values that I keep long term, are the ones that have most positive impact on those around me. And I always look at what actions can I take, what impact can I have on which numbers. It's very hard because we feel a rush of endorphins by just checking boxes. We feel a rush of endorphins by doing right to what our manager asks of us or what board asks of us. Yet I'm ruthless when it comes to prioritizing my actions to make sure that I have most impact based on the things that I know that I'm good at, to affect the numbers that are long-term. It's hard for people to have the same luxury as I do because I'm a founder. But for those that are within companies, the alignment that they have with their managers to make sure that at any point in time they can work on the things that they can have an impact is so important.
So you're talking about kind of daily non-negotiable activities that have an impact on North Star metrics.
And it's so hard to pick the right ones. It's so hard. It's so tempting to boil the ocean. It's so tempting.
Is there do those for you vary week in, week out, or are there specific ones that you tend to double down on?
I see that it's most effective to recalibrate about every quarter or so. It's, if you are pivoting daily, then you're on the wrong track.
I think that's good advice in general, though, no matter what you do, because there's ups and downs no matter what part of the go-to-market team you are. If you're on marketing, even if you're on the sales, or if you're a founder, like, there's always going to be ups and downs. But like you said, and this is easier said than done, if you focus on those daily, weekly, monthly activities that will have an impact, whether that is, as like you said, as an early stage founder, probably having more of a sales-led approach and starting more conversations, and as you grow the team, that's going to change. But if you know what those are, even when there are good and bad days, if you're still doing those activities, you know that will contribute to that end result that you want, then you're on a good path. But I think it's more, a lot of people I speak to, it's more the mindset side of things that folks struggle with, kind of thinking, continuing these daily activities that aren't moving the needle right now, but in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month's time, they will. I think that's where a lot of folks struggle.
It's focusing on the things that we can control and focusing on long-term versus short-term, for sure.
Yeah. Alina, I want to thank you very much for spending time with us, for being so transparent and showing what's working, the hurdles and the ups and downs of 𝗥𝗲𝗄𝗧. So with that, we'll certainly link to the 𝗥𝗲𝗄𝗧 site below. We'll link to your LinkedIn. Is there anything else that we should be sending our audience to?
No, I spend most of my time right now on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most effective. And I always welcome comments in my posts and things that could help me get better. And I always post about my journey there. Thank you for inviting me. It was a lot of fun.
You're very welcome. Once again, thanks very much, and appreciate you all, the audience, for tuning in. And we shall catch you on the next episode for more no BS, actionable B2B marketing stories to grow bottom line, grow your revenue. We'll catch you on the next one.